From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Board to reconvene. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Peters?
Here.
Supervisor Scribner?
Here.
Supervisor Maggard?
Here.
Supervisor Couch? Supervisor Perez?
Hey, good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, September 14th, 9 a.m. meeting of the Kern County Board of Supervisors. We'll begin today's meeting with a flag salute led by Supervisor Zach Scribner. Following the Pledge of Allegiance, please stay standing for a moment of prayer, silence, or meditation, whichever you prefer. Next, I would like to call on Nick Colin, Director of the Kern County Animal Services Department, to introduce our Pet of the Week.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. How's it going today?
We are doing just fine.
Good deal. Who do we have here?
I have with me a little puppy. Her name is Eve. I've been calling her Evie, and she doesn't seem to have a problem with that. But she's a puppy. She's about 6 months old. She actually just came to us yesterday, less than 24 hours ago, so she's a little shell-shocked. She's available for foster right now. Adoption, she'll be available on the 17th of September. She's just looking for a good permanent home. She's a sweet dog.
Perfect. On the 17th, you said she'll be available?
Yes, sir, but she can leave for foster for the right family.
Perfect, perfect. Well, thanks for bringing her down.
Thank you for having her.
Take care. Thanks, Nick. Next, I would like to call on County Counsel Margot Rizon for a report on action taken in closed session from the Tuesday, August 31st, 9 a.m. meeting.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. As you stated, you did meet in closed session at your last meeting on August 31st. Item number 105 was continued and not heard, and item 106 was heard, but there is no reportable action.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is the consent agenda. All items listed with the CA above the item are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the public wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken. Members of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. Members of the public may also comment on any closed session item. At this time, I'll read the consent agenda item numbers, and that is items 1, 4, 5, 6, and 9 on page 2, items 10 through 13 and 15 through 17 on page 3, items 18 through 25 on page 4, 26 through 33 on page 5, 34 through 40 on page 6, and lastly, item 41 on page 7. Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak regarding the consent agenda? Okay. Any members of the board would like an item removed for discussion?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second. Thank you. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Couch?
Okay, before we continue, I would like to acknowledge the appointment of Mr. Ryan Abler as the first district appointee to the Kern County Parks and Recreation Commission. I know he's got his first meeting coming up tomorrow, so I just wanted to thank him for his willingness to serve. And Ryan, my district director, Joe Brennan, is in the back there, and he can make sure you get to the right place and get whatever paperwork you need filled out, and good luck tomorrow. Thanks. Okay, next we have item number 2, proclaiming October 2021 as Paint the Town Pink Month in recognition of National Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to make a motion on the proclamation, item number 2, please.
Second.
Thank you.
The motion is approved. 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Couch.
How fun. You know, my grandmother was a 2-time breast cancer survivor. And so this morning, it really is a privilege and an honor to be with you and to make this proclamation, October 2021, as Paint the Town Pink Month in Kern County in recognition of National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Every October, we celebrate the courageous and brave survivors who have fought and continue to fight the battle of breast cancer. And we also honor those we have lost and keep their memory alive. Breast cancer affects so many of us, whether it's a relative, a friend, a co-worker, a neighbor. We have all seen and felt the heartache, the absolute heartache that those with breast cancer endure. In fact, just in my office, my 2 staff members and myself, all 3 of us have had grandmothers who have fought breast cancer. Links for Life provides education and resources about early detection, as well as community resources available to Kern County residents, not only in October, but all year round. There are many events scheduled during October in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I encourage everyone to participate as we celebrate our survivors, our warriors. And we support those currently going through treatment. And remember all of those that we have lost. The Lace It Up event on Saturday, October 2, will kick off this year's events. We will continue our tradition here at the County Admin Center during the month of October. Our building will be lit with pink lights outside in our effort to paint the town pink. I would like to commend personally and honor Jennifer Henry and Links for Life for all the good work they do during National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. They touch so many lives, bring hope, comfort, and solace to so many of our sisters and those who love them. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, it is an honor to present to you. Board of Supervisors, as you see, County of Kern, State of California, officially proclaims October 22 as Paint the Town.
We got
This is our sci-fi version. Right? We're going to time travel there real soon. Paint the Town Pink Month in Kern County, and this recognition has been entered into the official board minutes on this September 14th date. I want to say thank you for all that you do and for being courageous, fearless, and honest. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman and the board. For proclaiming October Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We're happy to be here live and not via Zoom as we were last year, right? Mm-hmm. Thank you for allowing local nonprofits to apply for and receive funds from the County of Kern Small Business Relief Program, as we did. Yes. This year, we will diagnose nearly 400 women with breast cancer, and we will lose approximately 100 of our sisters. And men get breast cancer too. 1 in 1,000 will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and we have had them through our services. This past year, we didn't stop. We may have shut down, we may have gone Zoom, and we may have been with locked doors, but we didn't stop. We diagnosed we screened nearly 200 women for breast cancer. We provided 5 needle biopsies. We diagnosed 1 woman with breast cancer who was able to receive treatment. We had 271 attend our support groups. We also have a Strong Links Hangout, which is for husbands and partners, and they meet at Imbibe the first Tuesday of the month. It is not the first Thursday of the month. It is not a support group. It is a hangout for men. They don't like support groups. Just being honest, it's a hangout.
But they like the wine.
And the beer and the whiskey, yes. So they can hang out, and there's flatbreads that go and charcuterie boards. Then we started a nutrition program where we will supply up to 4 $100 grocery cards to those in active treatment. On the average, a woman's out-of-pocket is $5,000, and to help with grocery allows them to pay for medicine and gasoline. With that, they also attend our nutrition class. We supplied 178 grocery cards to our local community, and 42 attended our grocery card and nutrition class. And we fielded over 10,000 phone calls in our office, calling patients and receiving calls. So please, yes, all of our money stays here local, so we ask you to make a donation to Links for Life. It's because it takes care of your mothers and your sisters and your wives. And then on October 22nd, God willing, we will be at Luigi's having a hot pink celebration to honor our survivors and bring our partners in to have an event. So we thank you for supporting Links for Life, and all we do, we couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. 2022.
Yeah.
Oh, well, say this for next year.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all the work you guys do. Okay, our next item we have is number 3, and that is Proclaiming a Dream Called Home, a memoir by Raina Grande, as the primary title for this year's Fall 2021 One Book Project Community Read.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Couch.
Come on up, Andy. Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I have with me Andy Sullivan, our Director of Libraries. Every year, the Kern County Library and the California State University Bakersfield First Year Experience Program leads the One Book Project effort to bring communities together through events and discussions related to the themes of a thought-provoking title. Since 2002, the One Book Project has sought to promote a culture of reading and discussion in diverse communities across Bakersfield and Kern County. The One Book Project is meant to pull our community together, cross cultural divides, and enhance understanding of our diversity, all while supporting literacy. And so it's my privilege to present today this proclamation. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Kern, State of California, has officially proclaimed A Dream Called Home, a memoir by Raina Grande as the Fall 2021 One Book Project. This recognition has been entered into our official minutes and signed by our Honorable Chairman, Philip Peters. And I'll present this to you, Ms. Sullivan. Come on up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Peters. Members of the board, it's been a minute since I've been up here, so I feel happy to be up here and to celebrate our 19th year of our One Book Project. It's a good book. It's about dreams. It's about first-generation college students. It's about struggles and overcoming struggles. I'll let Lynn Kemmer from the library say a little bit more about the themes of the book and companion titles for all ages and the different events that are happening through fall. This happens every fall. We're really excited about it. Last year it was virtual only. This year it's hybrid, so we have virtual and in person, and we encourage all ages and, of course, the board to come out and to participate. So Lynn Kemmer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chairman and members of the board. My name is Lynn Kemmer, and I've had the honor of coordinating the One Book Project for the past 2 years. It's been a little challenging not knowing how to deliver the programming in the communities. However, this year we will be hybrid, and we're partnering again with Bakersfield College and CUSB on the kickoff, which is tomorrow at noon online. You can see all of the programming that we have planned with our community partners at kcl1book.org, and you can find links to participate online. And the library will be hosting events in person at Beale and other locations for writing workshops, also public speaking with the Toastmasters groups, the English group as well as the Spanish group, which is called Metamorphosis. And we have a play that has been written by Mike Medina and will be directed by Mandy Rees. There are 4 showings that will be happening at the Dore Theater, and you can find that information on kcl1book.org. We feel this is a really timely book right now with regard to the themes, which are immigration and assimilation, home and idea of home, cultural identity and identity. We're tapping into a lot of the foster care community organizations so that we can partner with them on programming. And we want to be all-inclusive with regard to the theme of immigration going back in time and for all ages. So our companion title list and readers' advisory lists are really interesting. We have fiction, nonfiction, graphic novels, children's books, and many more. We have a reading challenge that people can participate in that the library is hosting. And additionally, what else is there? Oh, here's the book. Oh, yes, of course. The author event, which is hosted by CUSB on November 18th, will be virtual. And you can visit their website and submit questions as well as enter a writing contest. And we're planning to try to encourage BC and CUSB to offer extra credit to students to participate in the programming. Thank you.
That's great to hear. Thank you very much. Okay, the board will now consider item number 7, public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the board at a later meeting. Also, the board may take action to direct staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Please state and spell your name before making your presentation.
Good morning, Chairman Peters, Board of Supervisors.
Good morning.
My name is Francisco Martinez, 18-year county worker, CPS worker, and constituent of District 2. I don't have 2 minutes to explain what I see wrong with the county's proposal. I was thinking of just explaining some of the texts I got after Mr. Alsop sent the Yall County email to us, and obviously if I start repeating some of the texts, Mr. Peters would mute my mic, okay? And that's the reality. I would love to speak to some of the Board of Supervisors one-on-one to kind of explain what's wrong. It's pretty convoluted. It took a while for us to figure out what the proposal was, any benefits, and, or anything. So basically, to make a long story short, the proposal doesn't address, will never address the retention problem. Like I said, without getting in the weeds, there's only, the people I see who are even considering the proposal are people who are saying they're just retiring a year or two when they get that first COLA. After that, you know, they basically said, you guys are on your own. That's the attitude. So the proposal does not address retention. You know, it's a common theme in the MSW program. The classmates talk, and I go, you gonna work for the county? Shoot, I'm gonna just go in and get my time and get out. It's common. And you're right, Mr. Alslop, there will be some upward movement after 2-3 years if we accept this proposal, because you're gonna have management, PD, supervisors retire. Yeah, you're gonna open up some positions because who wants to stay? And in conclusion, I'm pretty sure management, if they could, they would express their concerns because they're seeing the writing on the wall with this proposal. But they're obviously not gonna speak earnestly and honestly because that's not their job. So anyway, in conclusion, thank you for your time. This proposal does nothing to do to relieve retention. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public speakers? Okay, seeing none, we will now move to, I'm sorry, go ahead, Supervisor Perez.
County Council, what can we say in response to what we've just heard? Obviously, there's not a meeting of the minds, at least as it relates to some people. I don't know enough about it to really make a larger comment, but what are we allowed to do here in response to this gentleman's concerns?
Supervisor Perez, through the chair, my recommendation would be to, unfortunately, say very little. Negotiations, or meet and confers, I should say, are ongoing, and negotiations are happening, and it's important that the board or management not get out in front of where the negotiations are for labor principles and subsequent charges of unfair labor practices. So
That's my concern.
Yeah,
I don't want
I
to
would be
ignore
cautious.
this gentleman who comes here on a very regular basis, begging the board to respond to what he sees culturally happening within the department. I don't know that there's a way for us to respond in a way that you find adequate. Unfortunately, we can't talk here openly because of the rules, and I don't want to put our process in jeopardy. But it is compelling to hear from folks every single week. We can't directly respond to you because we don't negotiate with you. So the structure is frustrating as we don't participate in the process. We have agents of the county that meet with you, agents of SEIU, and they, in theory, try to reach a meeting of the minds. But there is so much confusion and lack of effective communication in the process. It's just so frustrating, and I don't know what to do about that, frankly, because that's the chairman's decision. I don't think it's a good idea, honestly.
I just want to say one statement. Is that all right, Chairman?
Yeah, if you want to say one quick statement, but we don't really want to get into a back and forth up here.
No. Thank you for your honest answer, Supervisor Perez. That's the problem. You guys don't know what's going on.
That's correct.
Basically, sorry my terminology, I'm trying to be respectful, but that's basically the problem. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, item number 8, board member announcements or reports. I'd like to begin by inviting the Director of Public Health, Bryn Kerrigan, to give a report.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As of yesterday, 756,302 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine have been administered to Kern County residents. 359,250, or 47.6% of Kern's eligible population, has been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Another 70,710 people have 1 dose of their 2-dose series, meaning 57% of Kern's eligible population is at least partially vaccinated. 69.3% of our 65 and older population are fully vaccinated, and 31.9% of our 12 to 17-year-old population is fully vaccinated. Our average daily case rate over the past 14 days is 40.12 per 100,000 people. Our vaccinated average daily case rate is 0.90 per 100,000 people, while our unvaccinated average daily case rate is 63 per 100,000 people. Over the last 14 days, 99.17% of our cases were amongst those that are unvaccinated. Since January 21st, Kern County has had 38,884 cases, with 38,408, or 98.78%, being amongst those who are unvaccinated, and 476, or 1.22%, being amongst those who are fully vaccinated. 0.14% of our fully vaccinated population have tested positive for COVID-19. Sure. 0.14% of our fully vaccinated population has tested positive for COVID-19. During this same time period, we have had 1,585 COVID-related hospitalizations. 1,557, or 98.23%, were in those who are unvaccinated, and 28, or 1.77%, being in those who are vaccinated. 0.008% of our vaccinated population has been hospitalized for COVID-19. Kern County has identified 822 individuals who have positive tests more than 90 days from their initial positive test, meaning they likely have a reinfection. This equates to 0.62% of our residents who have had COVID-19 that have been reinfected, as compared to 0.14% of our vaccinated population who has had a post-vaccination infection. There have been 118 individuals who have been reinfected with COVID-19 who were hospitalized during one or more of their COVID-19 illnesses. 43 were only hospitalized during their first infection, 53 were only hospitalized during their second infection, and 22 were hospitalized during both infections. Those who were hospitalized during their second infection or following development of some level of natural immunity totals 75, or 0.057% of Kern County's population who has had COVID-19. For comparison, 0.008% of the vaccinated population has been hospitalized. The state's modeling suggests that we have started to decline in the average daily cases since the peak of the third surge, which occurred on September 6th. The hospitalization modeling suggests that our COVID-19 related hospitalizations will peak later this week at 333 on September 17th. As of yesterday, we had 323 COVID-19 related hospitalizations with 67 in the ICU. As of yesterday, Kern County's hospital system had 253 staffable available regular hospital beds and 37 staffable available ICU beds. Kern's ICU capacity is at 10%, and San Joaquin Regional ICU capacity is at 7.1%. Many of our hospitals submitted staffing resource requests for assistance with increases in patients earlier in the surge. The state supplied 57 nursing staff through mid-October, partially filling these resource requests. While this added staff has been extremely helpful, over the last couple of weeks, Kern saw a substantial increase in COVID-related hospitalizations in ICUs. Specifically, from August 28th through September 2nd, our COVID hospitalizations increased from 271 patients to 337 patients, or an increase of 66 COVID patients over a 4-day period. Similarly, from September 2nd to September 6th, our COVID-related ICUs increased from 57 patients to 71 patients. This is an increase of 14 very sick patients over a 4-day period of time. And these are just COVID-related hospitalizations and doesn't include hospitalizations in ICUs from all other accidents, injuries, and illnesses. A sudden, significant increase to this magnitude overwhelms the system. Last week, we were able to acquire strike teams totaling 27 people to assist with staffing in the hospitals. These strike teams consist of paramedics and EMTs from throughout the state for a 14-day period. I would like to publicly extend my sincerest gratitude to Kern's own Delano Ambulance and Trinity Safety, Alameda County's Royal Ambulance, and LA County's Care, Ambulance, Premier, Emergency, and PRN ambulance companies for their willingness to send teams to assist in our hospitals. We were also able to recruit 8 Kern Medical Reserve Corps volunteers to assist at our hospitals. Additionally, a 14-member medical staff team from the National Guard arrived yesterday. They will be here until they determine the resources no longer needed, which is anticipated to be for the next 4 to 6 weeks. We have also engaged a contract staffing company using some of the county's COVID funding to place over 19,500 hours of ICU nursing staff into local hospitals to assist with the increased demands on the hospital system. Additionally, we are working with the state to expand bed capacity in Kern County by 10 ICU beds and 20 med-surg or regular hospital beds. The state has agreed to provide all staffing required for this expansion. It is anticipated that the expansion will occur within the next week. And finally, we're working with the state to launch a couple of state-staffed monoclonal antibody infusion centers here in Kern County. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this concludes my update.
On mute. Oh, there you go. My screen was black. Sorry about that. Okay. Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Kerrigan, you are too modest about some things, and I want the public to understand what a fantastic job you are doing. When it became apparent that local hospitals were, as the surge of patients was rising and they were struggling to find staff, you inquired of them about that circumstance, and when that happened, you then advocated for them at the state level, and that's what brought down these 27 strike team members from the state. Is that not correct?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, that's correct.
Well, I am grateful. I know they are grateful, but I wanted to make sure the public knows what a great job you're doing for us in making sure that those strike team members are there. With regard to the 19,500 hours of staff that the county's prepared to help provide, can you tell us just a little bit more about how that process works?
Absolutely. In the second surge, we contracted with a contractor called Right Sourcing. The county allocated $14 million of CARES Act funding to pay for ICU nurses to come into our hospitals. They stayed about 10 weeks and just really helped with staffing. With the COVID surges, we see very sick patients, and so they need this elevated level of care, and this staffing really helps to provide the care that's needed and to allow our hospital staff to not have to work endless amounts of overtime because they're exhausted. We're employing something very similar for this third surge, 19,500 hours through this contracted staffing company that will send in many ICU level nursing staff into all of the local hospitals to help decompress and allow that staff to not have to work so much overtime.
How confident are you that that will get us through this surge that we think will begin to wane after this week?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, I feel very confident that this staffing will allow us to bridge the gap until we start to see the number of hospitalizations go down significantly.
I never remember the name of the organization, but there's a California hospital association of some sort, and they were in on one of the calls. Tell us what they said about that unique role that we're doing here about helping provide those 19,500 hours.
Absolutely. California Hospital Association does have a representative that attends our weekly CEO calls, and he indicated that Kern County is unlike any other county that he's associated with in the state of California. We're very proactive with supplying with our COVID funds nursing staff to our hospitals to help ensure that our residents are able to receive the appropriate level of care that they need.
Well, thank you for your letting us know that. I want to let you know that how much I appreciate you and Mr. Alsop and the other leadership of our county that are involved in this. Someday when we look back upon this era and what we had to contend with, nobody knew what we would be facing. We're going to rest knowing that we did everything we could, and I'm grateful to you guys for your leadership in that regard. Last thing, with regard to the National Guard members, how did that happen? And what are they? What I heard on the radio this morning on the way into work that there's some place in the country where they were down 90 school bus drivers, and the National Guard is going to drive school buses someplace. So how did we get them to come here and help us with nursing?
Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, the same process as with the strike teams. We submitted an urgent request asking for any available resources to be deployed into Kern County. We were able to have other counties respond with resources for those strike teams, and the state was able to acquire the National Guard to come into Kern County and help us.
Very good. Are you the one who placed that request?
Yes, sir.
Well, once again, Bryn Kerrigan on the spot. So thank you very much. I appreciate what you're doing. And, our main concern is to make sure that when people get sick, they have a place to go and we can treat them. And we have and let's back up there for a second. Are we confident that we have the state-of-the-art, newest forms of treatment available for them with the various medications and whatnot?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm grateful for you, Ms. Kerrigan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Maggard. Supervisor Perez?
Thank you. Supervisor Maggard covered a lot of what I was going to ask, so thank you. I won't belabor those points. Where are we with our kids and a vaccine for kids? I'm dying for it. I have a vulnerable son with a heart condition that I just learned will have to be treated with a procedure at Cedars-Sinai. So I am a little bit sensitive about it, very sensitive about it, and concerned. And I'm so impressed with BCSD and the job they are doing to keep the kids safe. It's just extraordinary. And really, my hats are off to them with how hard they're working and how committed they are to these kids. It's really something to see. And really, It's very humbling. Where do you think we are with the vaccine for kids? Where are we with schools? Or rather, how do you feel we're doing with elementary schools in particular?
Supervisor Perez, through the chair, it is anticipated that the vaccine will be available for those that are 5 to 11 years old, the Pfizer vaccine, in October. So we're hopeful that that holds true because that's sooner than we were originally anticipating. We are seeing increases in the 0 to 17 age group, but that was not unexpected. We're seeing increases in every age group across the county because we are in the middle of a surge. What we're watching is how the proportion of the cases is really laying out, and we are seeing an increase in the proportion of cases here in Kern during this surge in that age group. There are many factors that play into that. One is the vaccination that you brought up. Many age groups in that small age group are not eligible for vaccination at this time, so they have one less layer of protection than the rest of us do. They can't be vaccinated. Another is the fact that they were under lockdown much longer than the rest of us, and so they weren't out and about, engaging in activities, and now they're out and about engaging in activities, and they're susceptible to COVID-19. So we are seeing an increase. It's still less than what their proportion of their population here in Kern, so they aren't getting as sick as some of our other age groups, but we are seeing some increases. Our schools are doing fantastic. We're not seeing much transmission actually on school campuses. Most of our transmission is occurring within households or from gathering with a known COVID positive individual. And then you see those people, they end up on a school campus, then they find out they're positive, so the contact tracing process happens. We end up with identifying potential exposures, but we're not seeing that really result in more people being a COVID positive on campus because of that exposure.
Well, I'll tell you, it is astonishing to watch this administration deal with a bunch of little kids who don't want to wear a mask. Nobody wants to wear the mask. It's, it is what it is. The fact that they're able to do it and they do it effectively without being shameful or shaming people or making it political. It is purely about the health of the kids. It is so effective. I just want to communicate that to you as somebody who's there 3 times a day, right? Dropping off, picking up at different times. My heart is so touched by what they're doing to keep our kids safe in a very complicated matter. I'm out on Sundays. I'll be out again on Sunday going door to door. I have never, ever seen anything like it in my life. It is, beyond my comprehension. It's going to take a long time for us to understand what the breakdown was here because it is disturbing to a level I simply have not ever seen. Nonetheless, we're going to keep going, and every single person we vaccinate, right, is a tremendous benefit to the healthcare system, a tremendous savings over the long term for people that get long-term COVID. People in my district, of course, are very vulnerable to what we're going to see are lifelong problems associated with diminished lung capacity. And I just think it is sickening to see it politicized by anybody because I have multiple family members that are hospitalized, people who believe that the vaccination is evil and of the devil. These are good people who I love, and some of them are going to die. So I have reached a level of disdain and shock about this matter that I just can't even comprehend anymore. And it is completely unjustifiable by anybody participating in it. And I want to thank you for being straight with us because the numbers are pretty compelling. And you're not being political and you're not dividing us. And I appreciate that because there's no need for it. So thank you. And appreciate your work. We're out there too in our district, and we have our work cut out for us, that's for sure. And I appreciate your diligence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Perez. Supervisor Scribner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kerrigan, thank you so much for your report and for all the numbers, and I'd appreciate if you would share those with the board in writing so we can have those to refer to. I was going to ask about the school situation. Thank you, Supervisor Perez, for asking about it. It sounds like with the schools, it's consistent to what we've seen throughout the community during this pandemic as far as the infection being spread in homes versus in businesses or gyms or churches, or in this case, at the schools. And so that's definitely a good piece of information for us all to have. I wanted to ask you about a little bit more about the hospitalization rate and then what we're seeing the infection rate. I've seen presentations from you where we had we had some modeling done. We had an optimistic and a pessimistic projection of where we think infection rates are going to go and hospitalizations. And so can you tell us in light of the fact that we're looking at this surge in hospitalizations to wane over the next week, is that tracking with what we saw in infection rates? Maybe they track about 2 weeks behind the infection rates. And where are we as far as that optimistic and pessimistic projection?
Supervisor Scrivener, through the chair, absolutely. The case rate actually hit the peak about a week ago, and we're anticipating at the end of this week for hospitalizations to peak. So that's about a week and a half apart, which is exactly what we anticipated we would see. Both are trending along the pessimistic model or the worst case scenario, but we've been fairly along the whole ride trending along those pessimistic lines. So that helped us. We planned for the worst, and the worst, actually came to fruition, and we were prepared and we were able to respond to that.
Yeah, we were able to manage even under the pessimistic projection, and so that's fantastic news. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing. We appreciate your report.
Absolutely.
One question for you real quick. With the Kern County Fair coming up, I know we've been doing vaccinations out there for quite a while. Are we still going to be offering those vaccinations out there while the fair is going on, doing testing and all that stuff?
Mr. Chairman, yes, we are. We are partnering with Kern Medical, and we're going to have a whole building at the fair dedicated to vaccinations. And we're going to have an information booth right as you enter into the fair that everybody will pass through that's going to have information related to vaccines, and we'll be able to direct them back to get vaccinated if they so choose.
Great. Thank you very much. Supervisor Perez?
I know we were talking in my office about doing bracelets for a vaccination. Are you moving on that, or is that a separate line? I don't mean to jam you up, but have you heard anything about that?
Supervisor Perez, through the chair, I have not.
Okay, because we were talking about giving bracelets for a vaccination. Of course, all you'd need is a 15-minute wait period. It's about $50. That's about what we're doing door to door. Totally, a massive savings if you can keep somebody out of the hospital, right? And the human capital. So we were talking about that, but I wasn't sure if it had come to fruition, but just keep it there because I think it would be really cool. Most people that go to the fair are not people with a lot of money who go to the main portions, right? And a lot of folks don't have, I've worked with the fair very closely to take kids there and do $10 bracelets, and we've done all these fun things. So I know the need is great, and during the fair time, that bracelet is $50. That's a lot of money. And if a person will wait 15 minutes, it could be a real game changer. And if our fair is late October and we get this vaccination for juveniles in October at some point, that's a lot of people, a lot of poor people, frankly, a lot of people from the 3rd and the 5th districts. So Mike and I will be out there, hopefully giving out bracelets for rides. And hopefully incentivizing people to be serious about the vaccination. So just think about that. If we can make it happen, my office would be delighted to help. So thank you.
Supervisor Perez, through the chair, if I may, the fair did donate return fair tickets for anybody that does get vaccinated so that they can come back to the fair free of charge if they do take advantage of getting vaccinated if they come earlier in the fair. But absolutely, we'll look into the bracelets.
So to come back in the same fair period?
Yes.
Not next year?
Correct.
You mean come back this time, here's another
Correct.
ticket? Okay,
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Director Kerrigan? No. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, we will now consider item number 14 under the County Administrative Office, an update on countywide information technology services networking, server and telecommunications, infrastructure, and staffing. I'll turn it over to our CAO, Ryan Alsop.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, a while ago we had took a step to do some limited realignment of IT services across the county. At that board meeting, I think it was you, Mr. Chairman, that had suggested, provided a good suggestion, I believe, to provide some reporting back to your board. And I think that we're going to do that on a regular basis. It's been 6 months since the change. August was the 6th month, and we wanted to agendize an update on that move and where we are and how things are going. And that will be provided by our Chief IT Officer, Mac Avancina, who I will introduce now. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Peters, members of the board. My name is Mac Avancina. I'm your Chief Information Technology Officer. We're here to talk about the integration update. You'll remember that February 9th, ITS, along with the CAO's office, presented our integration plan consolidating what we call collectively as wall-jack back positions, LAN, NSA, telecom positions, over to ITS to address the following risks around security, efficiency, and as an overall best practice on how you run an enterprise IT organization. Today, I'd like to highlight some of the takeaways and the findings that we were able to achieve as a result of this integration update. First, since your board actions, we deployed a two-phase approach. So with the first month from February 15th to March 15th, performing a series of inventories and diagrams of servers and network devices across our Kern County environment. We also completed the change management training for all the IT affected staff. This change management training consisted of training around our ticketing systems, how we report on metrics, what we call a change request process for planned and emergency changes, as well as a unique opportunity for us to finally capture all project activities across the county. So the milestone there was to develop an asset management inventory within all the newly integrated departments. From month 2 on, our transition plan centered around capturing the activity for reporting. Now that we have full asset inventory information, we were able to represent percentage of our assets that required replacement, percentage of our assets that were requiring additional patch updates, a percentage of our assets that were part of any type of security compliance initiative. So the milestone there was us being able to make informed decisions with data and analytics. The 2 slides that you see to your right are screenshots of our interactive dashboard, the top right representing our IT inventory. As you can see, it's broken down by individual department. We have telemetry now where we used to not on physical operating systems, virtual operating systems, end of life, maintenance agreements across all of those assets. And on the bottom left is an illustration of our service desk system of record where we're able to now track trends for incidents, for problems that we're capturing on behalf of this newly integrated team. So the net to us is we have ownership and accountability for all of our wall-jack back assets. And since February of this year, I've been meeting monthly with the impacted department heads. And as I've mentioned, we now have detailed analysis of all of our technology systems that we hadn't had before. Moving on to the server-specific observations, what I'd like to highlight is this fact. 37%, 311 of 835 servers across our enterprise were centrally managed by my organization, ITS. That left a gap of 63% or 534 servers being managed outside of ITS. So in effect, as your Chief Information Technology Officer, I only had line of sight into 1/3 of all of our server assets prior to this integration. More importantly, when you look at our assets and how we distribute the assets as a measure of staff to servers, those triangles represent areas where we're sub-optimized in terms of how we are aligning resources to the amount of devices that those resources are supporting. Case in point, when you look at Fire and ITS, Fire IT that is, as a ratio of server count, only Fire and ITS has the most amount of efficient utilization. That is to say, between ITS and Fire, they combine for 50% of the inventory, 50% of the 835 servers with the most efficient utilization. There are 50% of other departments that have room to optimize. And this is a calculation of what we call a ratio of amount of engineering resource to an amount of servers that that engineering resource supports. Similarly, when you look at the network side of the house, ITS had direct line of sight for 48% of all of our network devices. 52% were managed by outside of central IT. And there's lots of significance there, I believe. These are not trivial functions. These are the systems that are responsible for managing our most critical applications. These are the systems that store our data. And these are the pieces of equipment that's responsible for communicating with our different suppliers as well as to each other. And when you look at the device model here for networks, it's similar. Both ITS and Fire combined for 68% of all the inventory with the most efficient utilization, and roughly 32% of other departments have room to optimize. It should be noted that treasurer tax, probation, and recorder, those network assets were already supported by ITS prior to the integration. So this is really a call out for those departments that were not supported by ITS prior to the integration. What have we learned is that from a security point of view, when you think about administrating multiple teams across, as large of a landscape as Kern County is, 63% of our server assets and 52% of our network assets were not centrally managed prior to this integration. You have multiple disparate teams assigned to manage security functions, resulting in poor oversight, governance, and accountability. We've seen evidence of that. We've seen evidence of inadequate asset management with some systems that were not supported by ITS prior to this integration, some 4 years overdue for critical updates. From an efficiency point of view, it is our belief that this is an opportunity for us to support better ways for how we manage all of our shared resources. ITS, along with Fire IT, I'd like to call out, has actually been a very strong benchmark for efficiency as a ratio of staff to number of assets managed. We believe that right sizing is still a necessary requirement to be able to promote training and how we distribute work for the overall benefit of the county, optimizing our performance and our skills. And last, from a best practice point of view, it's our position that by having these aligned technology teams, we're more successful. And we have deeper awareness of how we're able to support one another and support Kern County as a whole. And so you have a landscape where you have multiple servers, multiple network manufacturers that are supported. The more variation we have, we lose an opportunity to leverage enterprise price agreements, and we lose an opportunity to reduce variation, thereby simplifying how we maintain our systems and maintain our operations. We've had a couple notable security events specific to Kern County that I'd like to highlight since we reported out in February. The first was an active ransomware event that we thwarted. This was thankfully limited to one person, one system, but the net was that ITS performed forensics across the full data path of that server, that network, and that end user device. It took us 5 staff members over 3 days to be able to fully understand and triangulate the root cause of this ransomware event. My question to all of you is, what would have happened had this been a departmentally governed environment? What about the skills, the coordination, the accountability in order for us to manage an incident such as this? And as we all know, as we've seen it many times in the trades, seconds matter, not minutes. And ransomware is part of our new normal. Moreover, most recently, we actually had a phishing email originated from 2 high-profile users across our county. We initiated a security remediation effort after receiving a report from that department. In effect, emails were being sent by a compromised agent, acting as that county identity to other people with phishing requests. This was an hours-long effort to coordinate response across all of our departments, and this really just, again, illustrates that there are still ongoing gaps in how we centrally coordinate and respond to these types of incidents, since various teams manage and own their own consoles. These are just unique to Kern County. I'm not even highlighting what happened with the Colonial Pipeline Network. I'm not highlighting what happened with the JBS food supply chain. Colonial Pipeline Network, the ransom was $4.5 million. The JBS food supply chain, the ransom was $11.5 million. Spring of this year, President Biden and the federal office issued a much anticipated cybersecurity executive order. And the premise is this: he is forcing our suppliers, such as the Microsofts, the Ciscos of the world, and using as the carrot $70 billion of federal purchasing power for IT spend, as an incentive to do more, as incentive to do better. And I think that's a common theme that's being resonated across both private and public sectors, that we have to do more and we have to do better. So in response to that, here are some of the security programs that we've since launched and that we are in the midst of deploying. Endpoint. We have 12,000 endpoint devices across Kern County. An endpoint as defined by a laptop, an endpoint as defined by your desktop computer. We have 12,000 across Kern County. We're looking to complete all of our desktop and laptop assets and harden those endpoints by the end of September. We're looking to complete all of our server assets by the end of October. Some departments are fully completed, I'd like to report, but we still struggle and have challenges with other departments in getting the appropriate change windows and marshaling the right resources to complete these activities. Secondly, authentication and access. You've heard us talk about multi-factor authentication, MFA, in the past. These are very stringent controls, access controls, that validate your identity in order for you to access your corporate systems. We are introducing these stringent access controls across all of our corporate resources. Our rollout schedule is actually in flight and preparations are being completed, but these are just two, I think, of the more higher visibility, higher profile initiatives that we're working on behalf of Kern County for security across the organization. So in summary, this is another opportunity for us to really highlight the clear alignment of the objectives that we have around security and the execution that's required in order for us to deploy these types of multifaceted, very complicated type of solutions across one team. So as we wrap up our 6-month review, I'd like to conclude with this. In 2 months, from February 15th to April 15th, we compiled the most comprehensive asset database highlighting all of our security and operating system vulnerabilities so that we can make informed decisions. Chairman Peters and members of the board, I've been with your organization, with Kern County IT, for a little over 3 years. And in 3 years, I hadn't had this level of visibility into all of our assets had it not been for your action. Since March 15th, we've recorded 6,100 tasks. These are incidents and problems across our support center, of which 2,700 of them, roughly 45%, were from the recently centralized teams. So when you look at it from a transparency and reporting point of view, we now have line of sight into what we need to do better. How are we doing? Understanding the voice of the customer and how we're providing services and support for all of our departments. Since the board recommendation, we still don't have full reporting and accounting for all network and server assets, nor do we have accounting for customer support and application support activities still managed by separate IT departments. Our goal, ultimately, is that we believe that consolidation is a positive and necessary trend in the evolution of Kern County technology. And as Mr. Alsop had reported, our involvement with you is to provide periodic updates to your board as we encounter additional milestones and as we report out on these milestones and these updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Avicena. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for any questions or comments the board has. Okay, Kathy, I'm not sure, do we need a motion on this, or is it just?
Yeah, eternally grateful
you.
to you, Mac. Thank you for stepping up our game continually.
Okay, so yeah, we need a motion to receive and file then.
I'll make that motion, and Mr. Avancini, I know that I expressed the views of this board. We greatly appreciate the work that you and your staff have done, and obviously we've made tremendous progress. The security threats are out there, they're real, and you are doing great work to ensure that we are the best prepared we can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Krebser. Thank you, Chairman Peters.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Couch.
Okay, having no more items to consider in open session, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session to consider item 41 under the County Administrative Office and items 43 through 48 under County Council.
So moved.
Real ID, then you can simply renew online or by mail, and you'll receive a driver license or identification card with the phrase Federal Limits Apply. And you won't be able to use it to fly within the United States or enter